Here in Australia, we have a COVID curve that other countries could barely dream of. If you're wondering where Australia is on this graph, with that little flat line along the bottom, technically it's not even a curve. Yet throughout the lockdown, there's been one vocal section of the Australian media telling us we shouldn't have listened to the experts and that our whole response has been a hysterical overreaction.
And now all this coronavirus stuff, we surely must be in the age of hysteria. A high-severity pandemic? We don't have one.
We're paying a high price for this alarmism. We've listened to all this modelling at the beginning, and here we are paying the price for that.
The response is out of all proportion to the problem.
Brave talk from a man broadcasting in isolation on his southern New South Wales estate. But it wasn't just one retiring shock jock pushing the idea that Australia got it wrong.
It's looking more and more like it was just an extraordinary overreaction. This disease was nowhere near as lethal as we first thought. I mean, of course, it's a serious disease, but it's not a Spanish flu. It was more dangerous to cross the road for people under 60.
Australians were not meant to live like this.
Yes, we were not meant to live like this. We were meant to die. Mingling. It was surprising that so much of this talk was on Sky News, given that COVID disproportionately affects their core demographic of older people and those stuck in airports.
The greater danger now is from our governments, whose catastrophic laws, really, are smashing us into another depression.
We should not have had a lockdown.
Looks like the experts got it wrong. And in the most ridiculous overreaction, the experts insisted we hibernate our economy. Wrong, 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 and wrong again. Just imagine the utter devastation they will cause if we ever allow them to pursue their even more ludicrous and dangerous climate modelling.
Rowan Dean got so mad he gave himself the Roni.
Excuse me.
Saying that because so few people died in Australia, Australia went too far is like saying because we put up pool fences and no one drowned, we wasted our money on pool fences. These people say that Australia has destroyed its economy and turned itself into a police state, all to stop a virus that was never that big of a threat. Meanwhile, they say that one country has nailed it. Well, Alan Keaton.
We should have been like Sweden, who have not wrecked their economy.
Sweden has avoided the sort of lockdowns that we're seeing here in Australia.
And in Sweden, they sit in the park and swim in the local pool and go down to the beach.
Yes, the Swedes haven't let a little pandemic stop them doing what they're known for. Swimming in April.
Jävla frysning!
Now, Sweden has adopted a different approach to most of the rest of the world. Unlike Australia, Sweden didn't go into compulsory lockdown. While gatherings over 50 were banned, schools, restaurants, cafes, bars and nightclubs stayed open. Swedes were politely asked to socially distance voluntarily, be responsible and cough into their elbows, which, being Swedish, I presume are beautiful elbows. So that's the Swedish instruction manual. How's the finished product?
Sweden has suffered its highest daily death toll to date, as it remains the only country in Europe refusing to enter lockdown.
Sweden has recorded the highest number of coronavirus deaths in Europe. In April, the country recorded its deadliest month in almost 30 years.
Sweden has a far higher number of fatalities than its neighbours Norway, Finland and Denmark combined, and a heaps higher number than Australia, despite having less than half our population. Sweden has about 400 deaths per million people. Australia has only 4 deaths per million. If we had the same rate as Sweden, we'd have lost around 10,000 people by now. For comparison, that's about 2/3 of our death toll from the Spanish flu. Now, I like a historical reenactment as much as the next white guy, but I like even more that my mum's not dead. Now, you might say, of course Sky News is pushing a pro-death agenda. I mean, it seems like half of their ads are for prepaid funerals and life insurance. But their argument is that, sure, Sweden may have lost thousands more people than their neighbours, but it was worth it because not going into lockdown protected the Swedish economy. So how's that going?
We will see a downfall in the growth for at least 4%. It could be up to 10%.
We are talking of unemployment rates from next year between 10 and 14%. We have not seen anything like this since the 1930s here.
Sweden's economy is expected to do about as well as its neighbours, which is to say, terribly. And to make matters worse, those neighbours are now talking about locking Sweden out of a Scandinavian travel zone because its outbreak was so much worse. Swedes could be held captive in Stockholm. It is the most literal case of Stockholm Syndrome.
Looks like the experts got it wrong.
Like all of these guys, I talk out loud for a living. And like all of these guys, I have absolutely no idea how to handle a pandemic. I'm just glad that when COVID came to town, our governments listened to experts and not people like me. Should have asked an expert.